everybody, and welcome back to Max Sports Entertainment. My name is Deepak Shankar, and I apologize for the long layoff. It's been a very busy 1 month, and sort of one thing led to another, and it was tough to keep that schedule in that time between work and other things I had going on. But we're back now, and I apologize again about the layoff. It won't happen again. But anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna recap everything from um, April 23rd until now, basically, because the last time I had recorded was April 22nd. So just recapping everything that happened in between with the NFL draft, the second half of the IPL season, and then the NBA playoffs from the second half of the first round, second round, then third round. So firstly, in this video, we're going to start out with the NFL draft. So yeah, it took place between April 22nd and 24th, and it was a pretty or around that time, maybe the 23rd, 25th, I can't remember, but pretty much interesting draft for the most part, pretty standard all around in terms of not many big surprises. First overall, Fernando Mendoza went to the Raiders. I think that should be, a good fit given that they got Clint Kubiak and he'll be able to sort of adapt his offense to Mendoza's abilities. They really do have to build out the offensive line and get that sorted out to make that a more seamless fit, and not have him struggle like someone like Ashton Genty did, different position, but still like as a quarterback or a running back, especially a lot of your success depends on the offensive line. So if that's not intact, then it becomes very difficult. And so yeah, he went number one overall, and we'll see. Obviously, Tom Brady being a part-time owner, their minority owner, that could definitely help out in terms of his development, getting advice, things like that, sort of help Mendoza's transition, from college to the NFL. So that was the first pick, and then a lot of routine picks. I mean, I thought the Giants did well, got two really quality players in the first round. Cowboys got a steal with Caleb Downs, and I was surprised that the one really big surprise I thought was Ty Simpson going at I believe 13 overall to the Rams. That was a bit of a shock considering Matthew Stafford coming off an MVP season, one game away from the Super Bowl, played out of his mind. Obviously, he is older in age, at 37 years old, and if you're the Rams, you're thinking about the future because it's sort of a year-to-year basis with Stafford at this point. But was still surprised to see that, and it ended up being the case where Les Snead decided to go with Ty Simpson, go with the future. Sort of reminded me of the Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers dynamic when he had gotten drafted when the Packers were still in their sort of win now window in the last few years of Aaron Rodgers, when he had was in sort of still his MVP form. And so yeah, that was definitely a surprising move. I could tell there's the video of Sean McVay not being very happy about that pick, seemingly, unless he's really a good actor, or maybe it was something else, I don't know, but it definitely did not seem like he was too pleased. You would have thought the Rams sort of try to fill a position of need or try to get the best player available, especially because they're in a position where they're right there to compete for another Super Bowl, one or two players away maybe. I mean, considering that Seattle NFC Championship game, I mean, they were really the only team that challenged the Seahawks in the playoffs. And so you thought maybe one or two impact players at a different position, like maybe corner, on the defensive line, offensive line, somewhere in one of those positions, they would have gone, and to try and address that, to go back at it for another Super Bowl in the last, however many years Matt Stafford has left with Sean McVay. But they decided to go with Ty Simpson. I'm not sure how much I love the fit. He is pretty small. He does fit the offense with what Sean McVay likes in terms of, being able to just drop back, process quickly, get the ball out, that sort of thing. So it should be a good fit. But in terms of how Ty Simpson, with his size and only had 1 year starting in college, how that translates to the NFL, I'm not sure. But we'll see how that works out. But yeah, definitely I could sense Rams fans are pretty surprised. Draft analysts are pretty surprised seeing that move. So that was really the one big shock of the draft. And then lastly, got to talk about my birds. You know what it is. Took Mekhi Lemon with their first round pick, and I really like this pick. I mean, he's very durable. He's got all the intangibles. You can line him up in the slot, outside. He only had 3 drops in 3 years in college. So I think he'll fit really seamlessly, and that seems like a signal from Howie, despite what he said on draft night about, this doesn't affect AJ Brown or whatever. But you can read between the lines. AJ Brown, he's going to be traded coming up here shortly in about a week or two. To who it is, we'll see. There's been reports about New England. There's been reports about Jacksonville. We'll see how it ends up in that regard. But it seems like the hope of AJ Brown at all returning to the Eagles next year is just not a realistic possibility at this point. But Mekhi Lemon definitely helps fill that void. Just a very rock solid player, great at the catch point, runs really good routes, gets a lot of yards after the catch. The one knock on him is his size, but a lot of those same people, they said the same thing about Devontae Smith, and look how he turned out. And they're assuming he can take on that number one receiver void left by AJ Brown, which I believe he'll be able to fill. And then you can line him Mekhi Lemon in the slot. And I think he's the type of target that'll really help out Jalen Hurts, especially throwing over the middle of the fields and then quick throws with screens, slants, etc. Where it's just, get him the ball and then let him operate in space. And so I think he'll make an immediate impact right away, and really help out the Eagles offense with, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Dontavian Wicks, Hollywood Brown, and the like. So I think that should be a good fit. And I really like that pick overall. And I was saying, as the draft was happening, he kept falling and falling. And I was thinking, how he could trade up, and then before you knew it, he traded up with the Cowboys. And maybe you could argue he gave up too much with maybe a couple of late round picks, but still, I think it was worth it to both fill a need, and I think he was the best player available. Now, my whole thinking is, especially in the first round, you got to draft best player available, and all the best O linemen and D linemen had gone. So he just seemed like the best player on the board. The other top two receivers with, Carnell Tate, and then what was it? Yeah, Carnell Tate, and then or not Jeremiah Smith. He'll be coming out next year, but he should be an amazing player. But him and another top receiver that had gone earlier in the draft, and then really it was only Mekhi Lemon. It was those top three, and so. Jordan Tyson, I believe. Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, out of Arizona State. So getting Mekhi Lemon, great value for a player who was projected really in a lot of places to be a top 10 or 12 pick. The Eagles were able to get him outside the top 15. So another great draft pick by Howie Roseman, continues his brilliance and his run in the draft. And so, I think it was just a great really solid draft overall. Looks like Pittsburgh had a great time hosting. Record audience showed up and turned up for the NFL draft. So that was always great to see. Sort of switching from city to city each year. And so and then also lastly, Mekhi Lemon won the Biletnikoff Award. Same with Devontae Smith. So that essentially means you're the best player in college football. So we'll see how that translates to the NFL. But yeah, that's all I had. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one.